I'd like to call this meeting of the Macon County Board of Commissioners to order. Mr. Prelow, if you want to call your board to order.
This time, Macon County School Board enters into a session. Joint meeting with our Board of Commissioners, so we now call out the order also.
Thank you, sir. We'd like to welcome everybody. Glad you're here. This meeting, just to sort of clarify why we're here, this meeting is primarily about communication, being on the same page, understanding each other. That's important in a family, a marriage, a school board, county commissioners, whatever it is. Communication is key to what we do. We have our liaison meetings throughout the year, and Stephanie's on that, Mr. Cave's been on that. I guess you two were for this year. And then Ronnie and I are the liaisons, and just so you know, we've met several times throughout the course of the year, and those are always productive and good, but this is the one time that we all get together and share whatever thoughts and fears or whatever else that we have. So welcome everybody, glad you're here tonight. With that said, I'm going to call on my co-board, Jim Breedlove, Chairman of the Board of Education, to make whatever opening remarks he would like to. Chairman Breedlove.
Thank you, Mr. Corley. First, Mr. Breedlove. It doesn't like have a little nerves going on. We appreciate y'all having us here tonight. I'm going to go back to a comment. I think Mr. Bill made the comment. As I go to meetings throughout the state, I think one of it is when we start talking to other board members about our relationship with the commissioners, we get big open eyes. And they say, "I'm sure you're not telling us a fib?" And we say, "No, we're not." So I love to talk about the fact that the commissioners in this county, commissioners are open to the Board of Education. We've had an exceptional relationship down through the years, and we hope to continue that. At risk not very going very long, I'd like to talk a little bit about a time frame that's gone on for school systems since 2008. 2008, we certainly heard the first time as ever as school board members heard the word reversion, and it's nothing more than a nice word to say. It's kind of what I compare it to a shell game, where the state looks at you and they say, "Well, gentlemen, we're going to give you this amount of money, but oh, by the way, at the same time, we're really not going to give you that amount of money. We want you to, in essence, send it back to us." Well, back in 2008, it was only $174,000. Okay, we can handle that. Well, the next year, that figure went to $673,000. Third year, $905,000. Next year, $1.2 million. The next year, $1.1 million. And in the upcoming year, we're facing again, watch Angie nod her head, we're facing a reversion of $1.1 million, which over the space of 5 years adds up to over $4 million that the state had indicated we would be doing at no increase, yet suddenly we have had operated in a vacuum, but that money is just not available to us. And it's not a fun position to be in. Some of the commissioners were on board with us, I think it was 3 years ago, as my memory was, and that's Angie was, if that was 3 years ago, she nodded, yes, that was her initial meeting with our brand new finance officer. And at that time, we started talking about the fiscal cliff that was coming. And we knew it was coming. At that time, we still had some federal dollars that we could use to help spread out paying of salaries for our school employees and doing some things. And we tried everything we could to be good guardianship of the fund. Folks, at some point, those funds will run out. And we have now reached a stage where to maintain the level of education we felt like we needed, we've had to dip into our fund balance and where we're at. And it's not, I think Dr. Duncan will give you some information tonight that we're cognizant of where we are. We have a plan in place if we need to get there, and but we'll tread those. We'll take those steps if and when we get there. I'll end by saying I'll look at each one of you and thank you for what you've done for the children of Macon County. When I look at the facilities that we have, I don't know of anywhere in the state that we could compare what we have, and we provide an environment for our children to learn and to be educated. Having said that, I would throw out there, we also have a Macon Middle School that's now 40 years old. That's now coming up. So some of the things we're going to have to cap outlay this year is designed directly for taking care of that facility. So having said that, thank you again for having us, and we'll move forward.
Thank you, Jim. We've asked Jack, our county manager, to give us a little background history regarding the county's funding of education, and he's got a few numbers I think he'll throw in. So Jack, if you would please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. appreciate the school board and the relationship that the county has with the school board, not just the elected officials, but with the staff. I think that helps a lot in order to work with these problems that we have. There's one thing that I think we have here in Macon County that a lot of counties and school systems don't have, and that's trust. You find when you talk to people from other jurisdictions, the school board doesn't trust the county doesn't trust the school board. They always play games with each other, and they get right down nasty sometimes. But we haven't had that here. In the last 5 years since I've been back in Macon County, I've seen that trust grow between the school board and the Board of County Commissioners, because we're working toward a lot of times the same goals, is to provide the best facilities and education for our children, because that's our future. And the Board of Commissioners has changed somewhat since I've been here. I think Ronnie's the only one that's on the board now that was on the board when I came back to work over here. I hope that's not my fault, but
It's been on a couple of years.
But the board has, over the past 5 years, has continually made a commitment to do what they can for schools, especially when it comes to facilities, because our facilities work. As Kevin could tell you, serving all the years on the school board, they were in need of a lot of work. And sometimes people don't really know, the difference between the school board and the town board and the county board. And so every once in a while, it's good to kind of give them a little bit of a refresher on where the money comes from and where it goes to. So I'm not going to do a whole hour on budgets. I'll leave that up to Angie and Laura to do that. But I think it's good, especially since we got some new people, to let you know a little bit about the county's commitment to public school funding here in Macon County over the last 5 years. I won't list all of the projects, but some of the projects that the county's been involved in, all these capital projects, everything from improvements and additions to the East Franklin Elementary School and the new intermediate school, renovations to Nantahala and so forth, the new Alabama Valley Elementary School, and the school improvements to Franklin High School, and improvements to Highlands School that we've done, air conditioning at the Macon Middle School, and access to the South Macon campus. And in this past year, of course, you all recall the board committed to doing what it could to help increase the information technology programs in the school by coming up with another $1.5 million to help purchase much needed equipment and computers and so forth for the classrooms and for the administration. In addition to that, we're currently involved, as you well know, on the renovation project for the Highlands School, another $1.5 million. When you add all these things up over the past 5 years, you see that the county has spent or is spending somewhere in excess, almost $45.7 million in school improvements. And that's pretty good for a county of 35,000 people. And we're doing that by working with the school board and maintaining a reasonable tax rate and providing these facilities at the same time. You couldn't do that unless you had the cooperation. I think we were blessed to be able to have that. That's something to be proud of, that we made those improvements. And the one thing I think that stands out in a lot of people's minds is we don't have to depend on mobile trailers to have our kids in. And I think everybody is proud of that fact. I know we are on the county side. That's just a little bit about the capital improvements that the county's been involved in. And I think the other thing to keep in mind, most of these projects have been done during a time of economic crisis and recession. And that's unusual to be able to do those kinds of things, spend that kind of money for improvements when the economy has been so bad and when the statistics that we depend on for economic growth are going down and so forth. But that's the commitment that the Board of County Commissioners and the Board of Education have made, and I think it's going to pay off. The other thing I think that people sometimes overlook is the fact that the school boards don't have any way to raise money. You don't have taxing power or anything like that. Those of you who've been on the board a long time know
We're
that
beggars.
you have to depend on two sources, three, but two main sources: the state Board of Education, which is responsible basically for all the current operating expenses, or supposed to be, and then the county Board of Commissioners, which supplements that. And the percentages, if you look at them, they vary somewhat, but generally speaking, over the state, the local governments, counties put in probably around 25% of their current operating expenses, with the state putting in another percentage, and 5 or 10% or whatever it is comes from the federal government. What they can do for education, but they don't put as much money into it as you do on the local level and on the state level. And so, just to give you an idea of the Macon County Schools' current funding when it comes to the county, which is your local provider on that, and the fiscal year we're now in, current fiscal year 12-13, the county's appropriation for current expense, solid waste, supplement, debt service, and capital outlay amounts to $12,384,000. Rounding it off a little bit more than that, almost $12.4 million. The county's budget for this year, and our budget used to be a lot bigger than this, but it shrunk a little bit over the years because the revenue's down. Our total county budget for this year is $44,275,000, almost $276,000, so $44,276,000. So if you're looking at what education is as a percent of the total county budget, it's about 28%. When you're looking at that, though, it's a little bit deceptive because you look at the total budget, a lot of things in the county budget are not necessarily paid for with local taxpayer funds that come from state and federal sources. For example, if you look at the Department of Social Services, and you'll probably see a 25 or 30% expenditure there. But the fact is, only about 16% of that money comes from locally. The rest of it comes from the state and federal government. So that's a big percentage of the budget. It doesn't really come from the taxpayers. And so I think the thing to look at is what effect does the county funding have on the tax rate, and how much are your taxes actually going to fund education in the county? And a number you might want to remember is that out of our property taxes, which account for about $25.3 million a year, 48.89, almost 49%, or almost half of every dollar the county collects in property taxes go toward education. And so what that says is that, not to brag, but that's a high priority in the county's budget, and you all know that because y'all work closely with the Board of County Commissioners. That's a snapshot of the county. How do we compare to the rest of the state? And I asked Laura to kind of give me some numbers on that to see. Now, our geography and makeup and so forth is not going to be the same all over the state, but to give you some perspective on that, the statewide average on per pupil expenditures for 2012 was statewide average. This is 117 school systems throughout North Carolina. Some of them have special revenue, some of them don't. So the statewide average on per pupil expenditure from local sources is $1,893 per student. Macon County's appropriation for per pupil expenditures for this year was $2,430. We ranked 15th from the top in per pupil funding for our school system. So that means there are 102 school systems who have less per pupil put into their school systems than we do in Macon County. That's something to keep in mind. When it comes to ranking on state funds, the state doesn't necessarily treat every school system the same. I don't have to tell you that because y'all know it better than I do. We rank 56 out of 117 school systems in state funding, and that seems inequitable, wrong to me. So, and we're actually at 73rd out of in the state in federal funding. So we don't get a lot of federal money in here to help us with our school system, like some people may assume. Generally speaking, overall, taking all those things into consideration, the state money, the county money, and the federal money, out of the 117 school systems, we were at 40th. But I'm proud of the fact that the county steps up and do what we can to keep our per pupil expenditure up there. I'll just say this as a footnote, it's not up to the county to tell the school system where to spend the money on current expense. You all have to do that because that's decisions that you all make. You know where the money needs to be spent. Our job on the county side is to try to come up with enough adequate funding to give you what you need to operate your school systems while balancing the overall tax burden on people who live here. And so it's a tough thing to do sometimes. And we've been able to do that because we have such good cooperation between the Board of County Commissioners and the Board of Education. And I've worked in areas where it wasn't that good. And I'm very pleased at the working relationship that we have. like we said in one of our liaison meetings, it's going to be a tough year when it comes to budget. But what we have to do is look at it very clearly and understand what the situation is and try to work together to come to a solution. And I think that's why we're trying to get together, trying to take a look and see where we are, not knowing what the state's going to do. Once we find that out, that'll make a big decision on what we can do locally or what we can do or can't do. So that's a little bit of a snapshot when it comes to money and funding on the local level. I think you can see that the county has for the past several years made education funding a top priority, and I would expect the board to continue to do that. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have unless I can answer a question.
Anybody have any questions, Mr. Chairman? And just follow up on something Jack said, one of the discrepancies that I think we've all known through the years is that the state funds teachers. They assume, Chris, that kids come in blocks of 22 and 24. They don't quite do that in Nantahala, do they? You don't have 24 per grade, nor do they in Highlands, or some of our K-12 schools. So we've actually got some local legislation that's been introduced. Dr. Duncan may want to explain that, but he and I talked, and we've lobbied our legislators, Roger West and also Jim Davis, and they have introduced legislation. I'm not sure if it's made to committee yet. You know where that is?
I didn't check that. I knew it happened.
I'm not sure it has. No.
And made it into.
But we're hoping to correct some of that discrepancy in the way they fund teachers per grade, if you would. So if we can get that through the legislature, and we're going to be working on that. We asked Terry Bell if he would give us an update on facilities and current projects. So, Mr. Bell, what we're here today.
I'll start first with what's going on as far as projects concerned. At Nantahala, we are at this point we're waiting on the windows to be received. They're supposed to be arriving around March 20th on the site, and then installation of those windows will begin. I'd say by 1st of April we'll be installing windows up there. And that's going to be done during the school year. I mean, it's not going to wait. The principal up there has worked out a schedule where we can do a room, and then we'll move to another room, So hopefully I'm hoping that by the end of the school year, we'll be close to having those windows in. In Highlands, that project is currently out on the street. We have, what is it? 3 or 4, Jack? 4. We have 4.
We have 4 qualified bidders.
We have 4 qualified bidders. Those will be on March the 19th. Is when we'll be opening the bids on those. We have some work that will begin the last week in March during the spring break. We have some abatement issues up there that will begin before the general contractor is on site. And the plan right now is for general contractors to begin work on April the 10th. And that will be evening and weekend work, and it will be restricted to the hallway only. Will not be going into the classrooms until school is out up there. And that work is scheduled to be primarily over with when school starts on August 25th, with some tying up all the loose ends by the end of September.
Jerry, the other good thing you might want to mention is that we asked the board for an appropriation to expand up front to do that asbestos abatement, and we asked the board to allow us to spend up to $50,000, and we got a much better price than that.
Right, we started out, we changed the scope of the work, which helped us out, and so we sent that back out to the bidders again, and we awarded the contract to Neo Corporation out of Canton for $29,900 and some odd dollars. So we really came in under the money that you budgeted, Jack, to approve. So that's good. Any questions about school construction projects? At the last meeting of the school facilities, the county manager and the chairman of the board commissioners asked myself and Sheriff Holland if we would get together and due to the recent shooting in Newtown and look at the safety of our schools and see if there was something that might could be done to make our schools safer. And I use that term safer. You're not going to make schools, but you can make them safer. So Sheriff Holland is here tonight, and he has some things too. But let me just run through real quick, and you see the schools. I won't take a lot of time. And there's the three of us that worked on this. Tolly Bowles is the principal of South Macon. We use him also in this group. The first two schools we looked at together was South Macon and Cartuga J. They're the same school, the same blueprint, just different locations. Both schools have a problem. In fact, that the lobby is open with no means of control. So in the morning, when I go up to South Macon with my grandsons, I can walk through that door and I can turn left or right and I can disappear into the school and no one knows that I'm even in there. And that's all day long. So that's a real weakness that we have at Cartuga and South Macon. Even though those schools are new, relatively new, built in 2001 and 2003, because there hadn't been a lot of shootings, school safety and design was not in the picture at that time. The solution that we've come up with is at that entry door on the left, is putting in a means of control where, say, when the tardy bell rings, that set of doors that you see on the left would be locked, and then you would have to push a button. You have seen on WLOS, they're doing it in some of the other counties. You push a button, and that activates the console on the receptionist's desk, and then you can gain access into the school. So you can control it during the school day, after the tardy bell and before the dismissal bell rings. There's also another way at Cartuga J and South Macon that we put on the right-hand side. There's that open area that you can see. Right in here, we're looking at putting up a wall. David Curtis is here, and I had David to price out materials only. If he were to build a wall and put another set of doors there to restrict traffic down both sides of the lobby at South Macon and Cartuga J, and David said that, with $9,840 in materials, his department could construct that those walls to restrict that movement. But going back over here to the picture on the left, this is an immediate thing that we can use to control that. Any schools, in the cafeterias of both schools, have got glass walls in them. You can look right out. Someone from out there can just see right in when the school's full of kids, and so the principal felt that posed a threat also. Robbie got free one day, a consultant come out and nobody charges. And we went to South Macon, we went to Franklin High School in East Franklin, and we got a free visit from this guy who, that's all he does is consult on safe school issues. And basically he said, just put some reflective film over the windows. And I've got a cost on that, but it's not, I don't have it with me yet, it's not on the infant company. Let me back up. Don't know what I just did, but we'll move on to Unity. Oh, at South Macon, the slide went by real fast, and I can't back this thing up. Everywhere we go, cameras is a big issue. And so South Macon does have some external cameras and a couple of cameras in the lobby. And they also, Mr. Bowles felt like they need some more. You'll see that repeating itself. At Union Alternative, they already have a mechanism. Mr. Curtis put that in. That's a push button door, it rings a bell, and then someone has to get up and come to the door and see who's out there. It rings loud enough where it starts every place in the building too. It's very disruptive. What we propose to do is put the same device here that we're putting on first. We're talking about in other schools. This device is over here on this table, just behind the commissioners, and I'll show it to you in just a minute. It costs $4,000 to put that device on the door. It has a camera, built-in speaker, has a console box that sits on the receptionist's desk, and that would solve the problem there at Union in controlling that door. Also, you see replacing hinges. We got a bunch of hinges in these schools that they just don't let the door shut. And again, David has started installing some of those hinges, and they're about $125 per hinge, aren't they, David? And so you're looking at a set of double doors like that's $250 just for hinges. Also, it's at the alternative school, they want to construct a wall in this hallway here to restrict people from leaving the lobby area going into the classroom. And the cost of that, we expect out at about $3,000. I'm doing that. Just skip the cameras again. And they have no cameras at Union Alternative, none whatsoever. And this is a real problem down there right now because I think they've had some issues where it would have been a great benefit to them to have cameras. And so they're asking to have cameras on that school also. East Franklin, same thing, front door. Same device staying over here. We put on that door, that controls who comes in and out here today. East Franklin does have a lobby that locks, but the problem is that door that locks and has a control button at the reception desk is that right around the wall of that door, it's never locked, and someone can walk right past the receptionist and go into the hallway. So that, again, you're seeing it's working up right here. East Franklin has no cameras, and there's not a one in the building, inside or out. And you see what cameras cost. Cameras are very expensive items, and I'm simply just informing you that as to what those costs those cameras are. You can buy cheap cameras, but then you can't see. They're so grainy you can't see the person on the picture. So, Iowa Valley.
Who gave you that price, Terry?
The price? That's the price Tim Burrow gave me. That's what they've already got.
Okay.
I priced the same ones that are at Highlands. We'll talk about Highlands in a minute. Okay. Iowa Valley Light School built. It's the safest school in the county. They need a couple. The principal felt like he could use some extra cameras down there, but outside of that, and of course, all schools are going to ask for this. Every school principal that we talked to felt, the school resource officer would be the best thing on earth to have. So we have included that. Robbie's going to speak to that in a minute. But Mountain View, another new school. It is safe. We left a few things out of it that Iowa got. Again, I'm asking or suggesting to put one of these boxes on the door outside that reception area, because inside that reception area, there's no enclosure. So it's open. Someone can go over the counter and get into the building there, whereas an Iowa will be enclosed to all that. And then these are you'll see other requests. These are requests that principals felt that were something that they would like to have in their cell phone thing. I need to speak to that. In some of these newer schools, there's so much steel in those schools that cell phones don't work. So, as a principal, I wouldn't be too crazy about that, because if phone service is lost, power goes out, phone's no good, you can't even call central office. So it's $2,000. We did put one in Iowa. Iowa has one. We put that in the project, so Gary Brown can call him. If he loses all his phone service, he still has his cell phone to use. Macon Middle, same thing there. We've got, in fact, Mr. Curtis put these electric door locks on that front door there at Macon Middle, but there's no means of talking back and forth. And again, this device I have over here, I'm proposing to work better on that door than what they have there now. At Macon Middle, Mr. Madison wanting that alleyway there between buildings somehow blocked off, because students pass back and forth between those two buildings during the day, and that's a weak point. The consultant that Robbie and I had out said there should be only 2 entry points into a school: the front door and the kitchen door. And but at middle school you got that, and that's a weak place there. And the only way you can do is just put a wall up. But then you worry about egress for the fire escape plan too. So that's got to be worked out. Again, there's other concerns at the middle school. Not all classroom doors can be locked from the inside. We found that at other schools also. and the fact that some exit doors do not shut completely and would need to be rehinged. Again, you see the addition of cameras, and I'll add those up for you, the mind-staggering number. Franklin High is a really interesting place. Isn't it, Mr. Ball?
Yes, it is.
There it is, looking down from outer space. Folks, show me where the front door is. Show me where the back door is at. There's a lot of doors, and there's what, eight classroom buildings on that campus? And so, Franklin High School has 8 separate classroom buildings. All buildings have numerous entrances. Our evaluation is it's impossible to control the movement on this campus. A limited number of cameras, we'd recommend adding several more cameras, and you can see what that cost would be, $124,000. The only good thing is we got 2 SROs over there who work themselves to death. Fencing was discussed, but then it looked like a prison. And I don't think so we can fix the problem. That's building new high school.
How much is that gonna cost?
$50 million.
30. If you want to see it, I got it over here on the board. $38 million was the estimate that I've got right now.
That's low.
That's low. And that's building it on the same campus. That's rebuilding the campus and using the campus at the same time. We think it can be done. So sometime in the future when you have a checkbook. Nantahala, as we were talking about a while ago, talking about per pupil expenditure in Macon County, it being a little bit higher from Macon County than other counties. I'm not picking on folks from Nantahala or Highlands. I'm just telling you there's a reason that per pupil. Don't you understand that? That is a fact that we're operating these campuses. There's 4 K-12 schools in the state of North Carolina. We own 2 of them. And it doesn't run the cost of it.
Actually, it's only 3.
It's 3 now? Times changed. Been retired for a while.
I think it's.
At Nantahala, principal over there has done an excellent job. He has everything laid out, and you can see what the costs are. He's got to put that wall up. He's got to control that entrance there at the front. And you see, and this is a cost estimate. He went out to 2 construction companies, and that is their estimate on what it would cost for them to come in and fix it. And so you can see, and you go on to see this. He's got to construct a passageway from the gym stage over to the shop so the students are not exposed to the outside. You see the cost of that. You see the fact of adding 12 more cameras. You see the cost of that. And of course, as all other principals mentioned, school resource officer. Highlands, we want to control the two main lobby doors with those devices. All classrooms with interior lock. All elementary classrooms will get an interior locking mechanism called Columbine lock. We're going to do that. All the things you see, we're proposing that will be done with the renovation plan. So it's not asking for you to appropriate more money. I'm hoping that come next fall, all that will be done at Highlands, and it will be built into the project. Macon Early College, sometimes it's forgotten, but they've got some issues over there. Again, it's going to be hard to control because the kids go to the public library, they go over to the southwestern building because they're going over there for classes back and forth. They don't have any cameras over there, and they probably need a device, again, like the one I'm showing over here, to control the entry to the door, would make the building a lot safer. And then Ms. Hale, the school food service, would be happy to separate her from the others, make her a separate entity. But every kitchen door needs a buzzer and a peephole, and that's not a big. I think they told me he can do it for $125 per school. Now, in conclusion, this is what, Kevin, if you're asking me what could the county do to make schools safer and it wasn't going to break the bank, then that's my proposal right there. Let's control the front entry, the front entries. And then David can take care of the kitchen door. And every school, you see, is $4,000 a piece, except for Nantahala. Nantahala, you can't make it's because of its uniqueness and because of its remote location. and response time. It needs to have the full package done that I showed you that the principal has suggested. And then, like I said, the Highlands will be included in the renovation. And Franklin High School, I guess, will just,
Take a chance.
yeah, for now. I mean, if, that's my opinion. Cameras, I moved through them real fast, but if you'd add up every camera I showed you $363,000 worth of cameras. But I will point out cameras with schools with no cameras. East Franklin, RWJ, and Union Alternative. And the cameras I'm talking about are the ones like we have at Highlands. Highlands is the flagship when it comes to cameras. But the county didn't pay for those cameras, did they, Mr. Tate? No, they came through some
Stephanie, I think. Stephanie.
how did those cameras? Okay. But, so, once I've seen those cameras and how good they are, I think that's the way to go. And then the other needs that I ran through quickly comes at about $52,000, a little over that. That's putting the walls up at RWJ and South Macon and here, there, and other places. So, Robbie? I don't know where yours went to. It just appeared.
Mine ain't on there. I'm gonna be really quick. I know that time is a valuable thing right now. Basically, first of all, we were asked to do this, and we put this together. And Mr. Stewart that came and went, he travels all over the United States. He's a private company and didn't charge us a dime. And he went through a couple of those slides with you about what he had said. And my stance is still the same. I support the school resource officers in all the schools. I'm a realist too. I understand 6 positions is a lot of money. In fact, it is with benefits, equipment and everything, to put SROs in all the schools would be $507,000. $316,950 of that's reoccurring. We're continuing to do the same things that I've met with both the boards about, what we're doing within the schools, upping our security, going to the schools all the time. I have the intent of requesting 2 SRO positions with the idea that we'll continue to ask for additional SROs in the future instead of asking for them all at one time, because I know that we're not going to get 6 SROs, and I'll be lucky to get 2 SROs with all the budget restraints. I will tell you that I've been asked recently by certain members, is there any way you can make any kind of cuts, anything that you can do to help us out? And the only thing that I can say to that, and all my commissioners I believe know this, I know my county manager knows this, we have cut and cut and cut just like you all have. But we've cut, and we have 4 SROs in Macon County, but 2 of those we've eliminated deputy sheriff positions in order to create. And I cannot cut any positions to create SROs, so I'm just going to simply be asking for 2 more positions. That would be a total of $169,250, with $102,000 of that being reoccurring each year. But Mr. Bell said he was going to say it at the beginning, and he didn't say it. Don't kill the messenger. We were asked to do a task. We performed our task. We did exactly what we were asked to do. I felt good going to all the schools as the sheriff and as the person responsible for the SROs. I felt good to have all of our principals asking for the SROs, because I think that says something about our SRO program in Macon County. And I appreciate Amy Stewart and Danny Burrows and all of them that help keep that program going. It's because of them it's successful. And I would encourage both boards to support that. And again, I know we're going to be in tough times, so that's all I have to add.
Yeah, when you look at the numbers are just overwhelming. But I don't know what you all want to do or intend to do.
Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the liaison committee, we did ask, I think it was the liaison committee that asked for this report.
Correct.
And we thank you, Terry, and we thank you, Robbie, and we thank Mr. Bowles, and the gentleman who came free. That's the best deal you can get anytime. But we did ask to see what it would take. It would not be, some of this is still gonna be reoccurring, even if we do the cameras, because you wanna be, the cameras, I just bought some new cameras. And what is now compared to 3 years ago is totally, it's 100% better. So they continue to improve those, so, we can't give no answers, but we do appreciate the work, and this is a lot of thought been put into this, Terry, we know that. Kevin can certainly speak.
If you want, I'll leave that over there, you can look at the end of the meeting, you can look at the device that's over there. That's
What
just.
kind of warranties on these devices? And what are you putting out on the door to keep them getting hit with a ball bat?
Supposedly that little glass on top of that peephole right there is vandal proof. That's a Lexon,
There's nothing there, bro.
I know, but anyway, that goes on the door. It would fit right here. If it's on this door here, we'd have it sitting right here. Just, somewhere in a high.
Looking out.
Looking out, so it'll look right at you.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
I would tell you too that, he didn't mention this either, but the very first thing that Terry Bell would tell each of the principals is, I'm not Santa Claus. What concerns you? I can't give you everything that you want. What is the main concern of each principal? And allowed each of the principals and some faculty members to actually walk around with each of the schools that we went to. And they were thrilled to be a part of putting their 2 cents into it.
Well, I agree with what Terry started out saying. There's no way we can make schools 100% safe, 100% vandal-proof, theft-proof, crime-proof. You can't do it. I think what we asked was to take a look at our schools, the security, where the shortfalls were, what your recommendations were, and I think, Mr. Chairman, we look back to your board. You guys are elected to take care of the school system, and I think you guys need to maybe look at some priorities. If there's some things like those, the front entrances, things like that are relatively inexpensive things, certainly compared to the cameras and those kind of things that you could do that we could include in your capital outlay budget this next year or over 2 years or whatever. I think that's a priority that your board needs to set. We asked for the information. I think now we need to take a look because I think the public looks at us and says, okay, first of all, you have to assess where we are, and then you have to come up with a plan or not. It depends on which direction we want to go. We'd sort of pitch that back to you guys to decide what your priorities would be in your individual schools. So, any comments or questions, Sheriff or Terry?
Yeah, I got a couple on that. Sheriff, let me ask you this here. In these SROs, when a position would be granted to them, what's the deal through the summer? Is this person off duty? Do they work for something else?
That actually depends on the officer. A lot of times they'll work after school functions, and instead of being paid for it, they'll get comp time where they can take time off. Or because in the summertime you have vacation times for other officers, a lot of times those officers are filling in for those other positions.
So this is a full-time position on
absolutely.
SRO. And do you mind to state if a person starts out on it, including the package and everything, how much the expense per officer a year would cost them?
Yeah, I've got it broke down, absolutely. If you remember correctly, I said reoccurring, 300 for the 6 positions.
Yeah, what I need just for one.
For one, I don't have, okay, for one position, it's
Well, you
84.
got to cipher it here. We got to cipher it.
There you go.
For one position, it's $84,625. One position. For us to get one position, that is $31,800 for their patrol vehicle fully equipped, $48,704 for salary and benefits, which they're, to show you what kind of benefits Macon County has, their salary is actually $31,500. $26,900, $2,691, that's their uniform and vest. And $1,430 is their service weapon and taser.
Okay, so it's $84,000 first year on it.
For the two positions, I've got it broke down. For the two positions, it's $169,250 with $102,790 reoccurring. So each year would be $102,790 for those two positions, so whatever that is in half.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Anything else, Ron? You good? Any other questions of Terry or Robbie? Gentlemen, good report. Thank you. That's exactly what we asked you to do.
Thank you so much.
Chairman, if I could ask, I'm not sure if you, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Have you talked to other law enforcement agencies or other counties as to how they're dealing with this, since this is a topic that most school systems and sheriff's offices are dealing with now?
Yes, sir. A lot of them are fixing to ask for additional positions. With some of them, the commissioners have already given them the positions. They're already in place. I can tell you, I've got this real quick. I contacted 4 counties in their surrounding areas. You want to hear that real quick?
Go ahead.
Swain County has 2 SROs for 4 schools. Now, the one thing I didn't do is ask how many total students it was, but 2 SROs for 4 schools. One is assigned to the high school and covers an elementary school. The other is assigned to the middle school and covers the other school, the other elementary school. The supervisor's position is funded by the school system, including equipment and vehicle. The other SRO is paid from the sheriff's budget. In Jackson County, 3 SROs for 9 schools. One is assigned to the high school, one to the alternative school, and one to the K-12 school in Cashiers. I guess that's Blue Ridge. All 3 are on call for the other 6 schools. All 3 positions are funded by the school system via a contract. However, the sheriff's office does buy some equipment. Clay County, 1 SRO for 3 schools, and all 3 schools are on the same campus. The school system pays 80% of their expenses during the school year via contract, and the sheriff's office pays 100% during the summer and 20% during the school year. Transylvania County, they have an SRO division with a lieutenant and 7 other deputies for 9 schools. So they have 8 officers for 9 schools. They are assigned to the elementary schools, but 1 SRO covers 2 of those schools. They are partially funded by the school system and are adding a 9th deputy to work under contract with the community college.
Sure, all of the school resource officers that we have at this time, are they building comp time when they do activities, or is the activity paying them money?
Some of the situation, the schools are paying them, for instance, basketball games. The school system is paying them extra duty pay and getting a real deal there.
Right, thank you.
You had mentioned community colleges. Is that included for SEC or?
Correct.
Or Haywood? Okay. And that's for.
I'm sorry. You're talking about Macon Early College.
Well,
that's what I'm talking
said,
about. I wasn't talking. We're not going to put it's not my plan right now to put an officer at SEC.
Yeah, they have J's. Yeah, okay.
I'm hoping, as some of you may be familiar with, a grant or legislation that Congressman Meadows is introduced. I'm hoping that would come to fruition. And to be honest with you, we may not benefit from that, honestly, because it's not a whole lot of money. But I think what will happen is those agencies that don't have SROs that will apply for those positions, I think will get more benefit. We're going to apply, and I hope that we get it too, but I think the ones that will stand a better chance of getting it is agencies such as the Franklin Police Department, if they were to apply, and I'm really encouraging them to apply too, because that would benefit all of us too. Because whether we get it or not, I want somebody here, whether it be Highlands Police or Franklin Police.
And I think we got to say this meeting for those that don't know, the Highlands PD does supply and does pay for it. SRO in Highlands. I think that needs to be.
We did do
it.
it. We did do it, and then they had their chief of police, their assistant chief retired. So the new chief at that time was my first SRO, Chief Harold. And so he, like me, knows the importance of an SRO. So when he became chief, that was one of his priorities, is to make an SRO up there. And I'm glad they did it.
And that situation's worked out pretty well. By the way, I've talked to Chief Harold a number of times about that, as opposed to that being one of your deputies and then being 20 miles away under your supervision. It's under his supervision, it's in his town, it's right down the street from his police office. If he needs an officer in town for something, they're available.
Correct.
I think there's all kinds of good reasons that makes sense, as well as maybe something like that with Franklin Police Department.
And he's a top.
I think we give the Franklin Police Department that opportunity. East Franklin, High. Sure.
You might ask, you may be wondering where I would put my SROs, the two of them that I would get. I can tell you right off the bat, so you could be considering it. If you give me one position, he will be at Union Alternative in South Macon. Between the two schools, he'll have both schools. If I get two SROs, it'll be at Nantahala and then the Union Alternative in South Macon. So the two positions will actually eliminate 3 schools for us. South Macon and Union are right next to each other.
Again, those are decisions, priority decisions we're going to have to make, and I think these other security issues is pretty low. I think those things your board needs to take that up and include your budget this year, which is a good segue to this next section. I think the big elephant in the room that we've all talked about is budget, current and future, and talked to Dr. Duncan about this a number of times. And so we decided to give him whatever time he needs tonight. Do that, maybe use Nancy, but you guys sort of bring us up to speed on the budget.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, I'll answer your question on capital outlay. One of the things Dr. Duncan will be talking about is we have formed a capital outlay budget we'll be presenting to y'all. And we feel it's very realistic. We'll prioritize that when it comes in terms of priorities within the different categories. I think Angie did hit it to me. That was the preference. There's about 3 wish list items on there that we understand we would like to get. But we understand the capital outlay, depending on what we have, what your decision is on what we present, we'll determine to a large extent what we can or can't do.
Is that in here?
It will be. I think Dr. Duncan will be going over that. Yes, you have a copy of it.
But
We do have money.
You'll get to this, right?
Yes. All I was going to say is we do have monies left over from our Purdue J sale that we've been very stingy with, I should say, and we're aware of that. So depending on how the capital outlay goes and where we have to use some of those funds for pressing needs within the school. I know Mr. K brought to my attention today in our auto mechanics class, for example, there's a situation there that we have to look at very closely. So after we get through addressing what we consider to be core issues, then we'll look at other things exactly as you're saying in terms of that about security, because it's very important to us.
Absolutely.
I was remiss, if you'll bear with me just a minute, I didn't introduce to the people you're hearing from tonight. And I'm remiss, I don't know, but now I think all the commissioners have met Dr. Duncan. I don't know if you have or not. Dr. Duncan came to us as recommended from Mr. Corbin. He had an extensive background, and he was a superintendent. How many years, Dr. Duncan? 16. He came in, and he has been a blessing. That's the only word I can use to describe it. He stepped in, he's shown us the way, and we're very fortunate to have him. I thought also everyone there may know Chris. A change in leadership had to come about. Our superintendent we had moved on to other areas. We were very lucky. In my opinion, one of the things that the people in Macon County spoke to me with is they want someone that knows us, someone local, and someone that's here to do what's best for our school system. And we were very lucky. Chris is our previous principal at Nantahala School. He's a local man. He knows what we're looking at. So we feel like with new leadership, we're looking for bigger and better things. And having said that, I promise to be short. Dr. Duncan, we're going to turn it over to him, and he's going to lead us down the path.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir, Mr.
maybe a new board member.
Okay. Ms. Evans, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about this. For those who don't, Ms. Evans is a new board member. She replaces Mr. Baldwin, who's been on for the time, and Missy has come on board with some credit. She has a financial background. She's a banker at one of the best banks I know of.
Get these in here, get your pants ready.
So she's bringing the wealth, and she also brings, again, she grew up in Nantahala School. She attended Nantahala School, so she knows the people there, and they all know they can go to her, and when they speak, she listens. And she'll be bringing those ideas to us and presented in a way that's best designed to benefit Nantahala School.
And Jim, perhaps I too did make an assumption, everybody knows everybody, Paul Higdon is our new board member. Glad to have Paul on board. He's contributed a lot to the board since he's been here. Macon County native, many generations. So if you don't know Paul, you need to introduce yourself to him before you leave tonight. I think you know everybody else, I would hope. So, Dr. Duncan, you can make the time you need.
I'll try to stay within whatever time frame we need, but it won't take a long time. We may end up, obviously, we'll have to have some more discussions and meetings. It's been an interesting year, and I'm looking forward to June and July and August and more.
Let me take some pressure off this tonight. I think we're all good stewards of money we've been given. We're also stewards, whether we want to or not, of some tougher times we're living in. So this may require that these boards get together another time or two and meet. We don't have to decide all that tonight. We don't have to feel like we have to play all the cards tonight and get it all figured out and shuffle in the right order. If we need to meet again next month or the next month, Jack, I think I speak for you as a board, we'd be happy to do that. So don't feel like you have to cover everything tonight. I know some things Angie and I have talked about, you don't know. You're going to be able to, I know, move some money and do some things toward the end of the year.
And the state legislature is in session, so you don't know nothing.
Right.
And we understand that. So understand that we'll come back together again at your request or at our request.
Okay. Most of you probably know the history of a lot of things in the county. I didn't know that when I came on board July 1st. Angie is the finance officer, and she said, has anybody told you that we're $552,000 in debt? And I said, no, but I'm always up for a challenge. And how did we get in that situation? Well, a number of years ago, you had a pretty big fund balance in the school board funds. And there was an encouragement, apparently, from various sources to spend that fund balance down. This last year, every penny of the fund balance was appropriated out into a budget at this particular time of the year. When that was done, the county was asked to provide a current expense budget of a little over $7.4 million. The choice was to give the county school system $6.9 million, or $6,911,000. So, right after that, the state came back and gave us a reversion of over nearly $1.1 million. That caused us, in order to be able to open school like we had planned, to move 19 teachers into the local funding. That took all the fund balance and put us way over where it should have put us. So we started the year $500-something thousand in the red. My first goal was to try to set about some goals to try to alleviate that problem. We've worked very hard this year. We've tried everything we can to cut into that amount. Our budget was balanced, but as you know, I mean, you have to balance a budget. You can't turn in one that's not. And so we used money from various places in our budget to balance it. As it turned out, we used a lot of money in utilities, and obviously utilities is a big budget item for us. So what we did is we took a look at all of the things that we were trying to do, and we started cutting back. We did not replace any teacher aide that left. We replaced every teacher that left us in December with interim teachers. That means we're not paying benefits on them, we're paying their salary, but we're not paying a benefit package on them. So we replaced all of them. So as of today, we've probably recovered about $125,000 or $126,000 of that money. Actually, we recovered more of that because we cut out a lot of the software that we weren't using, about $32,000 worth of that. We cut out as much as we could substitute pay. We cut out almost all the overtime that was being mounted up, that was just seemed to kept going. We hired no new positions. So we're doing the best we can. We're working hard with it. Basically what I'm saying to you is we're going to need some money to finish out the end of the year. We can't tell you exactly how much it is because we are still moving people. And Angie, if you kind of explain just a little bit about how the state budget works versus the local budget in terms of we get money from the state, but we can't pay every teacher that we have from state funds.
Positions each year, and at the beginning of the year, we got about 212. We did trade in 18 on the reversion because that was the highest average state salary, and we had enough less experienced teachers that were lower on the pay scale at that time to where that was the benefit to Macon County schools to trade in those teacher positions. So we did that to gain the most amount of money to take care of our reversion. So by doing that, though, you do have to pick up those 18 teachers from some other funding source. So we pick those up local for the most part, and then we do have some Title I teachers, federal money teachers. State gives you allotments in each category, specific to which category they're in. Exceptional children, for example, can only be used for exceptional children teachers. They have to be certified as exceptional children in order for me to be able to pay them out of those codes. So you can't move, you have no flexibility when it comes to certain pots. So, based on that information, we did the best we could to meet the reversion, which was a little over $1 million, Dr. Duncan already stated. And that just affected our local fund balance even greater than we already had anticipated. And in addition to that, we also got the state implemented a 1.2% salary increase for everybody and a little over 6% increase in benefits, health benefits and retirement benefits.
And Angie,
that came through at the last.
Dr. Duncan, if I understand right, you did allocate pretty much all your fund balance.
We allocated all of the fund balance that was legal.
Okay. And that was about
It was the local one, is 1.1, I think.
Okay.
So that was, and then on top of that, we got the 1.2% increase that had to go to everybody. Then we got the benefits increase, and we had a slight increase in enrollment that cost us another one teacher aide and about three teachers. So on top of all of that, that was budget money that you never heard about because we didn't know about it at the 1st of June. We didn't know about it until the state budget was finished on about July the 11th at midnight. So, and we didn't come back to you at that time and say, hey, you know, we got to help us some more. I just felt like, you know, we do what we can do. We cut $24,000 out of the superintendent's budget. We cut general maintenance by $60-something thousand. And we're cutting into that. But I'm just saying that we're going to come back to you for some help to end this school year. It's not near going to be $500-something thousand. I mean, we've cut way into that. I would hope that we could get to half of that, maybe even a little further down than that. But that's what we do every day. I mean, there's not a day goes by that Angie doesn't tell somebody no. And when she tells them no, I tell them no. If I tell them no first, then she tells them no second. So we just don't spend it. I mean, we let them sit. People want stuff, we let it sit. Pretty soon they don't know, forget they've sent it in.
So Dr. Brown, let me make sure I understand. Basically what, it may be a little better, but the biggest part of the shortfall was in the 11th hour when the legislature gave the teachers a 1.5% increase. Then we had to pick up how many teachers? That was, how many do we have to pick up? Locally,
we traded in 18 for the reversion.
18, so out of those 18 teachers, we had to match the 1.5 increase plus the benefits, right?
Yes.
Well, yeah,
So, and that was how much money, 350 grand?
But in addition to that, the ones that were already paid on local funds anyway, we have to also give those an increase.
Sure, so how much money was that total?
I don't know.
$350,000?
Probably. That's
At least,
a close.
at least.
Yeah.
And let's go back 1 second to talking about this allocation, which is what we're talking about, this bill that we've talked to our legislators about. I sat on your side of the table for a long time, so I understand it a lot. I support and still do the fact that we got Nantahala School and Highlands School. That's geographically unique places that you can't do anything about. You can't bus a kid from Highlands to Franklin High School You can't bus a kid from Nantahala to Franklin High School. You cannot do that. It doesn't make sense. It's not moral, it's not ethical. You can't do it. So the state gives those allocations, you guys saw that. They give us X amount of teachers. That's based on a lot.
How many students per class?
24 kids
Well,
class
I think
average. That's
that-
less for kindergartners and
Yeah,
more
but
for high schoolers.
think what they do, they look at Nantahala school. They give us allotment based on 22 students per class.
Yeah.
We don't have 22 students per class in that in high
But
school.
Chris, would it make sense to have a class at Nantahala that had kindergarten through fourth grade in it?
No, it wouldn't.
I mean, that's stupid. That's not even worth talking about. So that's what we're talking about with this bill we're trying to get these guys to pass, is recognize that you can't take a cookie cutter. It may work in Wake County where kids come in lots of 24, but they don't come in lots of 24 in the mountains. And that's something that's been, we have absorbed that and dealt with that through the years, but now that we're dealing with lower budgets and reversions, that's become very painful.
It cost us $9,400 per student at Nantahala School.
And Nantahala is by far the most expensive school we have.
And that's 100% more than it costs here in the valley.
Sure.
Highlands or
And last week, we met with the governor, the Speaker of the House, and Senate Leader Berger, the four of us from the association. And they were very generous at the time, probably spent an hour and a half with each. We mentioned that. We mentioned this legislation. When you got 20 counties that control the legislature, it don't look good. We talked about ADM money. If you don't remember, the ADM money was 40% was the original agreement on the lottery money would come back to the local schools. Of course, that we have asked them to reverse that. That did get a little traction, we hope. That was one of the things that Kevin certainly worked on. One of the things we talked to the governor, Speaker Tillis was very open about that. But the Senate is doing the budget in this biennium. You need to remember that. It's coming from the Senate, not from the House. Totally different deal when it comes from the Senate. The Senate was much more closed to that idea. If you add up what it's cost to Macon County Schools, we also have the flexibility to spend that money. Not only for school construction, school debt, but for technology. So we just, we just stepped in what the county's doing for technology. So we don't know how that'll work out, but I wouldn't hold my breath on that one either. It's something we've not talked about. If the sequester goes through, none of this discussion matters. North Carolina's gonna lose about $700 million. And that'll, guess where that's gonna be passed down to? So,
for us, it'll be about $150,000, which will affect all our exceptional children program and all of our Title I programs, which affects the reading program that we have in place now. So,
and the way I understand it, Dr. Dunn, if that does take place, that's almost immediate. I mean,
yes, they'll give us time to adjust, but they will say that between now and fiscal year October,
you will have it done.
You will send us back, or you will not. We'll reduce your draw by 5.3%.
We asked about your visionary funds, that it not happen again. Because I was speaking for my county and the rural counties but we were told that, and that has been followed up on. We were told at that time that they'd have to talk to the senators who's doing the budget and to see where they're at, that they hadn't got that far along. This budget, you will see it come through the Senate, you will see it come through the House, you'll see them go home by June 10th. So that's what we were told.
So if you look, Mr. Bill, you see, we already know that's pretty much what we expect the provisionary to be, it's going to be over $1 million.
And we asked if it had to be turned around, and we couldn't set another $1 million hit.
It's actually $32,000 more than it was last year.
So,
And you can't, we asked for the formula,
Good luck.
good luck seeing that. You asked for it, Andy?
No,
I did.
current people who have though, and I think they're understood.
Yeah, and there is no rhyme or reason to that, and especially the legislation that Kevin's talking about. When you look at Highlands and you look at Nantahala, they look at it on a map. We tried to educate them as county manager can tell you over the past 2 years by taking maps and icing out, like I do every time I go.
They say it's 18 miles from Highlands to Franklin.
And you got
You bus kids there.
Just so you know,
That's a nice 18
when
miles.
Ronnie Bill gets in front of a big audience in Raleigh or some other place, he always likes to hold up the state of North Carolina roadmap. And you'll notice that western North Carolina is not even connected to the rest of that state. And he points that out to them every time he gets a chance.
And so you have to, but as far as what it does for us locally, there's not going to be no pie in the sky from the state. There's just no money coming. They're going to take more.
We just know we're doing what we can to try to correct some of that.
Well, and we understand that. But we're in a tough situation. If we ask you to fund our school system with no reductions, that we open school till next in August 26th, just as we are sitting right here right now, it will take a little over, right at $2 million, which means that you'd be giving us a little over $8 million instead of $6.9 million. Now, realizing that may or may not be realistic, I don't know. I mean, honestly, we'd like to have that. But if we look at it with another little eye and say, well, maybe what we ought to do is go back and look at our budget that we discussed at one point in time and said, instead of talking about a 10% increase overall, that we pin that down, that we only put a 3% increase in terms of salary. Now, one of the things of doing that is try to cover a situation that happened this past year. Also, we've got teachers that advance in salary pretty much every year. If they go from year 5 to year 6, they get more money. If they go from a bachelor's degree to a master's degree, they get more money. So they get a little bump anyway. And so by putting a 3% process in there, we felt like that was fair. We just have to have 5%, or right at 6% in health insurance benefit increase. That's a sure thing. We have to have at least 9.5% for utilities. I don't know what Duke's going to get. Well, obviously they'll get something. Last year they asked for 17. I think they got 7. This year they asked for, I guess, maybe for 10. They may get 9. I don't know what they'll get, but you and I know it's going up. Obviously gasoline is going up. The state allocates us money to run buses. They give us, they started out with an allotment of about $2.59 a gallon, which...
And Dr. that discussion is still alive and well down there too.
Right. And we were
to give each local school board responsibility of all buses. Buy them, back to the county.
It happens every year.
Well, it's alive and well, that discussion is, just so you know.
And
more good news.
Yeah, more good news. And I mean, right now, the last fuel we've got, I think Karen was $3.79 a gallon. The state, boy, they helped us out. They said, okay, we'll give you $2.79 a gallon. So we're $1 short for every gallon that we pump in the yellow buses to go down the street. You got to
Let's not be buying the Ronnie Bill, are we?
I would say 2 for that.
And why is that kind of bad too, is that we've got activity buses that we haul all the teams all over the country on. I mean, glad to do that. We've got a white fleet that we don't pay mileage to people to go to meetings, but they use a county car to go that's averaging $147,000 a car. And so we provide that, but we can't pay for that with state dollars. All that's local money. And 20% of our transportation fleet, our transportation cost cannot be spent by state money, because you can't spend state money on any work that they do on a maintenance vehicle, a county vehicle, or an activity bus.
Let me just mention one thing. When we're talking about local money, we don't have a print press. Of course, everybody knows that. When we're talking about local money, the only controllable source of revenue the county has, everybody knows, property taxes.
Right.
And so that's where it has to come from. If there's an increase, and if you have to increase of $1.9 million, and if the increase the tax rate to generate that much money, you're going to have to raise the tax rate about 2.25 cents.
2.25 cents, at least.
It's just to meet that minimum requirement that you got right there. So it's not I mean, we could take some money out of the fund balance and do like you do and spend it all, then we're gonna be even further in the hole. Then we won't have any way to, but it's a recurring expense. The current expense is a recurring expense, so you gotta have a recurring revenue to cover that.
Right.
And I just wanna make sure everybody understands that there's the only recurring source of money we've got is property taxes. And so when we talk about local revenues, that's really what we're talking about.
We,
You all know that, I'm just
yeah, we,
saying that.
and we will, obviously, we'll need to meet again, because I'm not gonna take just a few more minutes to let you know something. Last night, I gave the school board, again, we make the assumption that if the county commissioner said, you have the same dollar you had last year, in order for us to operate with that, we would have to make some drastic cuts, and I've given you those cuts. It says possible reduction to the current expense budget. And after making all of those, we will still have to ask you for an $83,000 increase.
What's the heading?
It's called possible reduction to the current expense budget.
It's like that.
Okay. See, the reason we have to do that is we have no fund balance. Zip. It's all been appropriated out, and in addition, $500-something more than that. So we gotta make that up to just get even. But these are listed here. Do we want to do all of these? No. We really don't want to do any of them. But we absolutely know that there are 11 teaching positions that can be absorbed. By that, I mean retirements and resignations and interims that are in position that we hired at mid-year to finish out the year. They have no expectation of employment. So, yes, that doesn't, it's disappointing, but what I'm trying to do is to get the teaching positions aligned with the money and not have a lot of teacher positions for which we don't have a student load to work with. So we based it on 1 to 22. It's pretty much state law in K through 4. We always do that. But looking very carefully at MVI, Macon Middle School, and Franklin High School. Now, you're not going to reduce the number of teacher units at Nantahala. You got one teacher teaching every science class right now. You got 4 kids in the 10th grade. I mean, you're not going to reduce that. You're going to have that. That bill that you've introduced or asked, and Ms. Evans, to our credit, has talked to Roger West, and if it gets passed, it'll be, Ronnie will be helping with it, Kevin, all of us will be doing our part with Senator Davis and Mr. West to do that. But what that says is that we would like you to allocate, as you did for Ocracoke High School, 1 teacher per grade level. And if you do that, that would be 13 teachers. That would cost the state of North Carolina a grand total of $278,000. Because they already provided enough money for about 6 or 7 teachers out there. We're providing about 4.5 local teachers out there. So if they would just do that, that would release $275,000 back to us. That bill, that money is chicken feed to the total state budget. But it would be a godsend to us to be able to do that. We talked about 25 teacher assistants. That's big. We have 43 teacher assistants now serving kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade. If we eliminated 25 of those positions and kept 18 of them, that would be $618,000.
Dr. Duncan, I don't want to hold you up, but I'm not really clear in case someone asks me that. How do you absorb a position?
Well, what you do is you go in and, let's say, for example, I'll give you an example. Let's say we have English class, and we figure an English teacher teaches 6 periods over 1st semester and 2nd semester. So that's 6 students. So there's 22 times 6, which I believe is 132. Okay? And what we do is we take the number of students and divide that and figure out the number of sections that we need. So what happens when you look at it with a fine-tooth comb, you find that you're in essence overstaffed at some schools. In other words, that ratio may be 1 to 16. It may be 1 to 18. But by eliminating that overstaffing, by being consistent, you absorb those positions. So, for example, if we, just an example, let's say we had 2 English teachers at Franklin High School retire. Well, as it stands today, we would not replace those. Nobody loses their job, but it helps our budgets. And that's what we mean by absorbing. It would be primarily, I think there, overall, there are 11 positions that we would not be overloading classes, we would not be diminishing. We would increase the size of some classes, but we wouldn't be doing away with AP classes or advanced placement stuff.
You're still servicing the same number of kids, you're doing it with a smaller staff.
Do it with a smaller staff.
Right.
And it's done by dividing out and saying to the principal, this is how many teachers you have to make it work. Now, we can't put 30 kids in a class. I mean, years ago you could do that, but I mean, the sheriff would be there 3 times a day if that was to happen. The environment and the society is just so different today with all of that. But we're talking about putting 22 kids in the class.
Like, that doesn't mean to get you off track, but I'm not really sure about that.
But that's what we mean by absorbing, doing the same work with less people. And we could lose 11 of those positions. Now, if you said, no, we don't want you to do that, then we'll say thank you, and we'll go back and hire them back. But right now, we're not planning on hiring anybody. I mean, if somebody leaves, they're gone. I mean, we're not going to hire anybody for a long time. Dr. Ball will have an opportunity when he comes in to pick up some pieces. But I mean, there's no sense in hiring people right now. I mean, for next year, you know, unless they are a position like a special ed that you know you have to have, that you know it's already funded, and that type of thing. I won't go through all of these, but you know, if we eliminated a clerical and a county office staff position, student services at Franklin High School, or reassign somebody over there. Some phone allocations, reduce those. We pay for all the referees for the sports, reduce those. Co-curricular is the non-revenue sports that we pay for at the schools. Instructional materials, we got more from the state this year, coming up this year, than we did last year. So if we zeroed that one out and didn't give them any money to buy pencils and paper and stuff like that, they would still have state money to do that. Countywide support, whether that's a maintenance person that leaves, whether it's a bus person that leaves, whether it's a technology person that leaves, we wouldn't replace that. Moving our clerical people, some of them are 12 months to 10 or 11 months. The staff development that we have for principals, for teachers, teacher aides, everybody that does that, we take all of that out. We have some extra pay for 10th and 11th month athletics and coaches, take that out. National board certification, we pay for that right now, for them to renew that. We've got 6 coming up this year. Coaching supplements, that's all the coaching supplements. That's about $225,000 every year. People say, well, you know, you pay for the athletics at the gate. No, you don't. We pay for all the referees, we pay for all the field maintenance, we pay for all the coaches. So the school board is paying for it, the county is paying for that as well. Charge for driver ed, we never have done that. That's not a lot of money, but we ought to be charging them. What happens is kids will come and take the class for 2 weeks, they'll quit. We don't get that money back. We bought them a spot, but they didn't take the class like they should, so that goes away. Accelerated reader and study island are software programs that are very vital to the instructional process. That's a $61,000 item. Boot allotment, we allocate some money every year for steel-toed boots for maintenance and the transportation people.
Tennis shoes, where's David at? Why are you Nike?
Right. We hope that keeps down any major problems, but that's what we're spending on that. Principal supplements. We have 3 principals that get individual supplements because of the schools that they serve. Eliminate that. New Century Scholars is a contract program. We had an individual that worked at the central office a couple of years, several years in that program. She retired. but she's a valuable asset to the county, and so we brought her back on a contract for that amount. If you eliminate all the athletics at the middle school, you got $50,000 there, which is the coaching supplements and travel and all involved in middle school athletics. The reason we didn't put high school athletics in there is you got contracted services. Eliminating high school athletics, you're gonna have Brevard calling over here and wanting to know, where's our money for our home game? So you gotta reimburse them because you didn't go play, because you didn't have a team. Macon Early College cost us about $100,000 to operate. We get a grant from the state as an innovative high school, but that's money that's not allowed to be spent from that grant that we pay over there. And Union Academy costs us about $100,000 above and beyond what the state gives us to operate that. So we took all of that out. We're saying to you that if we eliminate every bit of that, and you gave us $83,000 more, we would open school, but we would be sad.
Duncan, in the Early College, of course, it costs a lot more than $100,000 here to operate Early College.
300.
That would be the net savings, Jack. You know, we
So
close that in.
Community college gets credit for that, and their allocations, so in the state as well. So-
Right.
So,
But we're still paying for positions there, so the net, again, if we did do that, would be a savings of about $100,000.
Yeah, it takes about, we get a $300,000 grant, it takes about $400,000 to operate that. The same situation with Union, we get at-risk money from the state that we use, and we spend every bit of that, but we spend over and above that too, because we have to have certain things there that we have to have.
Dr. Duncan, on the first two line items is 36 positions, which is a little over $1 million. And these are people who are in front of kids every day, right?
That's correct.
So hey, what did you look at for people who wasn't in front of kids every day? I mean, if you look at it for classroom teachers, it's $12,257,000. School building administration, $1.2 million. Non-instructional support, $1.28 million. I'm not sure I know what all that is. I'm sure we could. I think I've asked that before.
Yeah.
But have you looked at that, the people who's not in front of kids, and where you can find that?
Let me answer that question. Let me clarify what this is, Mr. Mayor. This is not setting rules, this is what we're gonna do. We talked about this last night as a beginning step to look at based on where we're
I
at.
think the beginning step would be you look at people who's not in front of kids.
Well, please understand, last night we looked, yes, I agree. There's some other things we're gonna be looking at. This is just the initial thing we're showing you to give you some idea of the impact that the reductions we've had could possibly have. And this is just a scenario. This is not the one we're gonna follow necessarily. I look at this myself, there's some things I don't think we need to do, but Dr. Duncan, give credit due, sit down and work through this and try to come.
So this is just, I mean, if
This
you're
is
going to take away all the people in
Right.
front of the kids, I see no cuts in none of this from the other $1, 2, 3, 4, 5, $6 million. If I'm reading it right.
Well, out of those 11 teacher positions, you're going to consolidate classes.
Right. Well, because in essence, you know, that's sort of true, yes.
Now, was this
All
your
right, let me clarify, we're not talking about sending 11 people home, Mr. Bill. We're talking about 11 positions at the door. We're talking about cutting classes.
I know, and
not
they
filling those
retire or
positions.
whatever.
You're talking about increasing the number of kids in the class.
Yeah,
Instead
to
of
some
18, now
degree.
you got 22,
instead of
whatever.
5 or 6 or 8 or 10?
Now, there may be some positions that we look at, to answer your question, we had a discussion last night, that if there's not demand there, if a teacher is not willing or able to move in and take a practice, move there, well, we may have to look at that very seriously. Because bottom line is, our goal is to keep class sizes where we can do and keep the best teachers we can in front of the students to the best benefit. As Dr. Duncan said, if we have classes that we're funding where we're only reaching 6 or 7 students, that may have to go by the wayside. And I think that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about absorbing positions. We're talking about doing exactly that. So we're not saying we're going to send teachers home or whatever. We've kind of done that now with interims. We haven't replaced, as we've seen. So that's where we're at with it right now.
How many of these are vacant positions now, out of the 11?
Zero, because we're not gonna, I mean,
Right. Well, we're talking together.
we would be able, for the most part, as Dr. Duncan said, it just so happens that because of the class loads in high school, and with the numbers that we've got, middle school and the intermediate school, we can make it work. Basically, attrition, retirements, and resignations, we can make it work and have 71. There would be no vacancies, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right.
In order to all we do is we just put interims in on positions.
Yeah, but I didn't know if you had some, you know, the state got into trouble by saying they got rid of all those teachers. A lot of them was just positions they closed out.
Yeah.
They were
They were
funded
retirement.
positions and nobody there.
Exactly, and we're just not going to refill them.
Yeah.
Because we new teachers come in to
So
fill
you're not saying they'll take away.
Correct.
Mr. Bill, which page you looking at?
I'm looking at this, Macon County is page 1 of 2, state planning allotment
Right.
for the fiscal year 13-14. And then this may not be,
Those are state funds.
those are state funds. that's
State
coming in.
funds.
Right.
Right. And we're spending every dime of the state dollar.
But you can, but if I'm getting around to the reversionary money. So how did you calculate what we're going to send back?
We get a form, and I actually have a copy of it here, but what we do is we give a form, we're given a form, and these categories are listed on that form. And you can put in, let's just say 18 teachers. Well, it calculates a final total based on the statewide average salary of a teacher of what you would get if you traded in X amount of teachers. So that's what we did last
So,
year.
yeah, and I understand that per each. So when they do that calculation, the reversionary money, we need to figure out a way that we can argue that point. How much money is that, Amy?
The reversion for this year,
Yeah,
$1,096,000.
So that's half of our problem.
Yes.
Huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's half the problem. So if we can argue that point somehow.
That's why I use that thing shell game, because they start out, they're saying, we're going to fund this number of positions.
And it's not true.
212, it's not simply not true. In essence, they use the salary. What basis did they use, Angie, on that 212? What was the average figure? You understand what I'm saying? They found what at 212 jobs, 212, and then they said they were going to give how much did that work out to be?
56,000, 48,000,
Right.
what is it?
Something like that. Say $56,000. So in essence, what they did was, they turned right around with $1 million, and they've taken 18 to 19 positions funded away from us. That money never came. We don't get
They're
it.
making, you make the choice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you've got 2 fewer teachers this year for 13, 14. That's that website that you had last year.
And I will add to that, I usually do a form about May to where we can get we usually pick up 2 positions for Nantahala because of things might fall under the small school allotment. So I do usually pick up 2 extra teaching positions for that
But
school.
it'd still be 2 less than last
So,
year.
yes.
This allocation that you got there, that's before the reversion of this year coming up, right? So
Yes.
they're gonna
This
say.
is before the reversion.
Yes.
They're gonna say, well, this is what you're gonna get, and then they're gonna give that to you, and then they're gonna ask for part of it back, so they're not really giving it to
Then
you.
they
So what
set
it is, I'm oversimplifying this, I know. But what we got this year is, the state said, this is what you're gonna get, and then they took part of it back. You had to use your fund balance to cover yourself, and then on top of that, they give you additional expenses to pay that you didn't have money for. Is that
As
right?
far as increases and insurance and a salary increase and everything along the way.
So that's why it's such fun to do this.
Well,
But
like
you
you
know,
say, it's a heck of a challenge.
And larger school systems are not having to pay the reversionary money. The
Well,
larger the
You're
school,
not only-
they are, but if you got the larger the school system, though, Angie, the more places they have to pull the money
Well,
from.
most of the other districts get low wealth and, small
The
schools
tier,
get
they
a
go
lot.
with the tier rate.
We don't get low well.
we don't really know well.
None.
Don't get it.
Yeah, see, Clay County's got to revert $329,000. Well, they may get 1.4 million in low wealth money.
Additional.
Right, so they just write a check.
We will not get that.
No, we don't get any of it. We don't get,
They'll actually give you the money and you give it back to them, they just don't ever give it in the first place.
Exactly, that works.
You never see it.
We
You
never
never see
get the
it.
state allotment.
Looks good in the press.
No, it's there.
yeah, we never get that. We just,
You just get a piece of paper saying, by the way, you're not gonna get this.
Yes.
But
well, it's like telling people we're going to give you 12
I
checks.
think the big question now is, that's the big picture, the little picture is, we gotta, from now until the end of this school year, when will you have that hard number?
Before we're supposed to get you a budget or a request.
I say that, Angie.
It'll be,
It's usually the late
you May.
part of April, 1st of May before I.
Before you know-
The whole time I'm doing journal entries, for lack of a better term, moving as much as I can to state to zero out these state plots of money. So all through this year, and actually I've started that a little bit, I just haven't got into
So you-
a lot of it, so we're moving.
My question is, when do we need to meet back? When, late April, 1st of May, we need to try to meet?
Well, the board of, by law, the Board of Education has to officially present their budget to the county by, what day is that? Anybody know? April 15th.
April 15th.
May the 5th.
So we need to meet.
Whatever it is,
for that.
you really need to meet before then.
Right. I mean, what I did, and I mean, it wasn't fun. I mean, because I know that there are many, many things that we don't want to get rid of Macon Early College. But I looked at everything in our budget that we were asking you as a county to fund. And last year, we asked you to fund 7.4, we funded 6.9. To take that money and apply it against next year, we would have, see, we started out $500,000 in the hole. So we have to recover that money somewhere to start with. Next year will be the same bad news if we are not able to get a little bit ahead. You know, we're gonna have to have more 6.9. If we don't, then almost every one of these cuts will have to come into being. That's just the mathematics of it. So if you said, no, we're not going to tax increase, but we've got some fund balance here and we'll go up to a certain point. And you guys work out, we know you're going to have to cut. So, and our responsibility is to respond to that because we know the system. That's the board's challenge, is to present a balanced budget. So that's what we would want to do. But I mean, we can't do that tonight. But this is just putting out there. It's not a secret. I mean, we're not holding back. I'm not holding back anything for anything.
We might be able to get together staff-wise and do some preliminary work on it before, so that we'll both have the same information when the boards get back together again. We'd be willing to do that.
I'm going to say, Jack, would it make sense for you, Dr. Duncan, Angie, and Lori to get together? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, if we could do that, we might be able to run some of these things down and be able to save a little bit of time and just understand where we're both coming from, what the real, because when you sift all through it, there are going to be 2 or 3 things that's not going to go through the system. That we've got to figure out how we're going to deal with them. And those are going to be some tough decisions that are going to have to be made by the Board of Education on where you spend the money, by the Board of County Commissioners on how much money they can appropriate for you. So we'd be willing to meet with you all and work on the staff level if you want us to do that before we all reconvene as full boards again and work on your budget issues.
So we need to talk about the revision that the $1 million is going to lose. What could we do in the meantime? That's half of our problem. This is the state's responsibility. We can't keep assuming the state's responsibility at a local level or make a taxpayer. We can't do it. So, and I think it's maybe going to be worse than that. Yeah, that's my own opinion. I think we've not seen the charter school queuing better yet. So I think it could be much worse than what we anticipate. But at what point do we not, as citizens, do we say, you know, how much more can we do? I mean, that's half the problem. You cut that problem in half. You mean how much the cow run? Half of it? Is that right?
Hamburger at the time.
So, I mean, I don't know what we could do politically, Kevin. But, I mean, whatever we think we can do. But it's like talking to this right here.
And what I don't understand about it is you've got an entirely different vision in state government than you've ever had. you got, both, one party has all three branches. And every single county is faced by that. I mean, Charlotte-Mecklenburg has a reversion of $35 million. Now, maybe they have other places to put. Maybe it's easier to go to Charlotte-Mecklenburg and say, we need another 4 cents on the tax roll, and they just go ahead and pass it and eat it up and go. Well, I mean, that's a tough thing to come here to Macon County and say, in order to keep our schools up, we gotta have 4 cents on the tax roll. I mean, we can say to that.
That's part that they don't figure into that equation, Dr. Duncan. If you live in Mecklenburg County, you probably got a better ability to pay more money than you do if you live in a rural North Carolina county.
Well, our tax rate, and you all do provide a 2% supplement, but the supplement that you're providing, I've given you some information there, ranks us 102nd in the state in terms of local supplements that it's 2%. But, there's some that provide 0, but there's 101 counties that provide a higher supplement from some money. Now, with this kind of stuff, I mean, we're not the only
101 school system.
Yeah. We're not the only school system. We're in probably the worst shape from what I've talked to people because of some decisions made along the way. But everybody's facing the same thing. I mean, Jackson's sitting down there with less students than we got. They got a reversion of $900-something thousand. So everybody's in the same boat. And I can't, in the state of North Carolina, per pupil spending, we had more money to operate the schools in Macon County. I wasn't here, but in 2005 and 6, you had more money than you got today. Gas wasn't near $3.95 a gallon. I mean, what, whatever, pencils and pens didn't cost what? Everything has gone up. The state, over the last 8 to 9 years, has gradually reduced the amount of money they have given counties to operate education. This lottery mess is absolutely the biggest hoax that's ever been perpetrated on people in the country.
Or the children.
Yeah, on the backs of the kids, because we don't realize, you can't find out what you're supposed to get, but what you can realize is if they take the money that was being used to fund K-3 in North Carolina back before the lottery, you look at the graph, it's up here. The state money that's funding K-3 is down here. So what happens? If the lottery, if everybody decides they're not going to play the lottery, less. Harder times, more people gamble. I mean, people who have the lowest wages pay, they play the lottery the most. So it's nothing to us, but the state of North Carolina continues to decrease that, and it's somewhere somebody's going to have to stop it. And I wish we had leadership in Raleigh that would stand up and say, guys, we cannot continue to say to Macon County, for example, they've got to have a school system. And by the way, they're going to have to find $2 million out of the local coffers somewhere. Well, that's just this year. It's recurring. You've got to find it next year and the next year. And I'm realistic with it about it. I do think it would take a long time. But if the staffs get together and meet, and then we say we'll call another meeting, our intent is to have our board discuss these kind of things. We have to meet the law to try to present you a budget, and we will try to do that realistically. That would say, this is what we need.
Well, just to point out, I think the best way to deal with this is the way we're trying to deal with it is hand in hand and arm in arm with the Board of Education and Board of County Commissioners. Because most of the CJC and Raleigh is better than us fight with each other.
Right.
Because if we're fighting with each other, we're not worried about what they're doing or not doing. So best way to deal with it is we can't, and you're realistic like I am, Dr. Duncan, there's no way we can fund everything that you need to have funded. And the reason that we're in that situation, not because we've been slack on putting in local resources in education, is obviously because the state has not come up with the amount of money that they should in order to fund the current operating expenses for our schools. And I don't know, like I said, I'm not sure how we're gonna deal with it, but the best way to deal with it is united with the county boards working together to try to resolve it, instead of us fighting each other trying to figure out how we're gonna do it.
Right. Well, we're committed to doing, staff work with you and saying, these are some things we can do, these are some things we can't do. Ms. Beal, looking at every position. Yeah, when you see some of these are facing kids in terms of this non-instructional support.
Non-instructional support is your clerical people, your custodians, and your
Substitutes. Instructional support is,
your media and guidance people.
so,
So the state, when the state allocates your money, they allocate it by the line item. You don't have discretion to move it around from one
Not a
board
lot.
to the other.
There is some flexibility when it comes to doing some waivers and things, but for the most part, you're pretty much tied.
so in other words, if you went in and eliminated all the guidance counselors and all the media people in the school, you'd have $1.4 million, more state money. Okay? But, we'd have to get a waiver to pay the teachers out of that, pay teacher aides out of that. So, some things,
County was thinking about closing school. They talked about it last Wednesday. Some county,
Closing their schools?
they closed school.
Yeah, I read that.
They talked about it, Raleigh, it was on the, they just went out, they said they got no choice.
people doing
They're gonna close
everything.
the school.
There's a lot of things they're doing. 4-day school weeks, the state is forcing decisions to be made that are not educationally sound, that do harm to the education environment in the county, and they sit there and do it and ask you to absorb it and just like
Another thing, what if, looking back at decisions, former Chairman Kay, if we still had the older schools and we had to operate them because of ages, the county, where would we be now with that? Had we not pulled the trigger and went ahead,
Right.
so.
And I think we have to face reality too. We have to face the fact that we cannot operate with the same number of teaching staff that we have operated. See, over the last 4 or 5 years, we have not decreased personnel at all. If you look at the number of people that we had back 3 years ago, 4 years ago, it's the same number we've got today. So, yeah, so we haven't stepped down. We walked here, now we're dropping off at the bottom. Steps are a little bit easier to take.
Are you still seeing the increase in the K-3? That's where the big money is, right? That's where the increase in kids is.
A little bit. We've got 4,360 kids right now. Our planning allotment is 4,400. Unless something changes, we won't vary 45 kids next year. This year, we had a bump at the beginning of school, but they moved on this type of thing.
What's ironic, we're out here every day. Today, I know 3 of this table have been working on economic development, wanting to bring in businesses, in come those businesses. And these people have young families that does this particular business we're talking to.
Right.
So we're going to put them into a system.
More teachers.
But yet we're out recruiting.
Right. What you're going to put them into is one of the most, obviously, very positive, caring system. The teachers are working their hinds off. They are really committed to a strong educational program. Kids get a great education. Every kindergarten teacher do just like that one in Newtown, step in front and take a bullet for kids. We know that. And we're not glut in overstaffing in terms of county staff people. Most of them are paid. We have to have somebody in special ed because that's a big dollar. We have to have somebody in the federal project, that's a big dollar. So most of those are paid out of grants and out of other funds. Principals, assistant principals are key to schools, but
When class sizes go up, they're gonna become even more important.
And I might say, I appreciate Chris, and he's been in on our discussions. I mean, we haven't kept anything from him. I want him to know the reality of it. And Mr. Horton, he'll be involved in those
Good luck.
discussions.
What you'll be.
I mean, it's, because it will be his, his dog to walk whenever it comes along. Angie's, I mean, we're doing, ladies and gentlemen, everything we can to continue to operate, but we understand that we have to operate with fewer dollars in some areas. And all I'm saying is we hope that you would see fit to increase the appropriation for us. How much we finally ask for is a matter of opinion from the school board, and then they will give that to you, and then you react to that and say, we feel like we can do this, and we understand and walk together and say, if we have to have people that have to go home, that we've got, a body of 10 elected officials that say, folks, we didn't have a choice.
Well, Dr. Duncan, we appreciate the job you've come in and done the system. I think Jim's comments up front were pretty appropriate. You've done a super job for them, for the county, and Angie, all of you. Your board's to be committed for working like you have. We'll continue to work with you.
But I think it's also important to say that if anyone goes home, it's not because of these boards, it's because of the conversions.
Well, I think Ronnie hit it, Mr. Chairman, to simplify things in the breed love business. You've lost $4 million in the space of 5 years. When you're being funded by a firm that's in error for Macon County, we have schools that it doesn't work on. It costs us more to do that.
We're trying to fix that.
No, I'm talking about just how, like, Highlands School, if you're trying to fix it, but let's face it, it's been that way. It's been that way forever.
This is the fifth try.
Fifth try. So when you look at those things, that's where we're at. We can't absorb a $4 million decrease in where it should be coming from, which is our state legislature.
Well, just one big picture comment, I know we got to go, but basically we've done here what the federal government hadn't done. I'm talking about Republicans and Democrats. What they have not done, which is live within your means. You can't spend money you don't have. You cannot spend money. You can, but you can't borrow your way
out of debt. Spend your way out of debt.
You can't borrow your way out of debt. It doesn't work. So you have to live within your budget. You have to live within your means. And that's, I have to do it in my house. But the difference is the federal government, if we looked at it as a model, what they do is they print more money. And that's why we got these trillions of debt. And we don't do that, haven't done that, not going to do that. So that's why you have to have the tough discussions.
Yeah.
The United States Senate's not passed a budget in 4 years. What is that? I don't even understand that. You? No. Well, why don't we leave it? Dr. Duncan, are you?
I'm through.
Good? But don't rush you at all.
The only other comment is you have our capital outlay in there. The board's
We do.
a number of hours going over that. We will take some priorities and put them in categories. But we did not purposely put anything related to school security in our capital outlay request to you because we were waiting on this report. Now that we have that, we can either incorporate some of that and talk about how that, whether we ought to request it or whether you're prone to fund some of those things or not. But in our capital outlay, you may look down, well, I don't see any cameras. Well, we knew this report was coming, so our capital outlay is based on needs from the principals, based on the board going through probably $900,000 worth of wants, coming down to about, to actuality about 250, but some things that would be good to have, brought it up to about 327. So that's the capital outlay side of it. And we'll have to talk about it, but I mean, we've got to do something in Macon Middle. I mean, the heating and air system and stuff like that. We've got to do something with the gym in Highlands that's not in the project, the roof. We've got to do something about windows that Chris can tell you are falling out in the high school. So we've got some things that from the county, I mean, that we say to you we need to do. They're pretty much not options. They're going to have to be done. But that's why when you look at our capital outlay list, you see a lot of things but we've got some priorities, and you kind of look at that and say the first item per school in that item would be our priorities, pretty much at this time. We're going to put out on the street a bid for mowing all our grass and all that stuff to try to eliminate having to buy lawnmowers year after year after year. We feel like that rather than putting money in lawnmowers, we can put local citizens to work, try to do that. We'll see.
The Wake County law goes through, you don't have to worry about that no more.
I know.
You don't have to worry about none of that.
That's right, just give it to you.
That's right.
That's right.
That's what they're gonna do, that's what they're
gonna try to do.
That's what they're gonna try to do, they're trying to make it a law. And it's got wheels.
Wow.
You can't make that up.
I know it. I've worked with that. We just, our maintenance staff just needs to work report. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to it. Nobody's immune and nobody's safe while they're in session.
Just one final thing, Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I think I mentioned this, but let me repeat again, to all of the commissioners and going through, y'all's generosity in our technology effort, giving us $1.5 million is a lifesaver. If we were sitting here trying to have to deal with that also, and I don't know, I'd probably sit here, I'd be crying while I'm sitting here. So we truly, truly appreciate what you're doing. It means that we can use those things. Our children are now going to be using technology that they need to be using to live in today's world and to be 21st century students. And that was due to the generosity of the commissioners.
And that was an example.
We thank you.
You can't keep putting things off.
Correct.
They keep getting worse.
That's something I thought that's been, it overlooked how much what y'all stepped up and done.
Jack alluded to tonight, which is another factor. This board you see here, the board the last couple of years, the county budget was about $50 million in 2007. Is that right, Jack? 2007.
Somewhere around there, around 2006,
2006, 2007, the county budget was $50 million. The budget we have this year is 44. So do the math there. We cut and cut and cut and cut while still living within the same tax rate. We haven't changed the tax rate.
When the technology's changing, we can take the laptop, the Apple iPad. We can buy the iPad and put 14 textbooks on it. Now.
That's another goal we got, a lot of every kid will have an iPad in their hand.
And we're doing that in we're piloting in several schools right now.
They said they'd send a check, though, Dr. Doug. They said,
they'll send the check.
no.
They want you to do that.
But the governor mentioned it, he talked about it on a grand scale, that every kid in 2 years would have their iPad, and
Let's face it, Mr. Bill, children learn differently today.
oh yeah, it's a
It's a
different
different
world.
world than when you and I grew up in school.
But it still costs money.
It costs money, but if you're going to educate your children, you have to do it by means that they like and
We're able
will use.
to replace computers cheaper. Computers are faster and cheaper than they were 5 years ago, which is one problem.
We don't want them to do it, but if a child were to break an iPad, $25. If they break a laptop, about $600 in terms of a screen. So, there you go.
I'll say one thing about this. I'd rather see a kid carrying this than a 50-pound pack on his back full of box full of books. That's not healthy for them, if you've seen that.
You see, textbooks are $85 to $90.
Jim, is your board satisfied, and I'm asking our board at the same time, are we comfortable at this point to leave it to our administrators to get together at some point around the 1st of April with their finance staff prior to our meeting again, let that be the next contact? Are we good with that?
Yeah, is there going to be maybe Ronnie knows, is there going to be a committee recommendation on state funding that's going to come, if it comes out of committee, it's going to go through the legislature? Do you know if there's a committee that's going to be making a decision anytime soon?
They are, and I think that decision is due by the 15th.
Okay.
So,
Once we find out what that decision is.
if we find out that that's coming from the city, you gotta remember who's doing the budget. It's very important. It's very important who does the budget between the House and the Senate. Because in the Senate, you have a third of the members you have to deal with than you do in the House. So this budget's gonna go real quickly, it's gonna come out, it's been written, and it's about 70% finished now, according to last Wednesday. And it's going, but I think the total budget committee is going to give a preliminary report. I think it's going to be due in the middle of March, the initial committee report. So I don't know how detailed we did go to the budget hearings about sales tax revenue that in front of the legislature from the state economist. Sales tax revenues are flat and even declined. In some counties, I think you'll see Macon County will have an uptick for December. We'll get that money about April, June.
So as long as it used to be, but it's still a pretty good while.
Still a pretty good while, we gotta count. So, but I think you'll see the first come out of committee probably next month, and that'll give us a real indication. How we wanna talk, the revisionary money's what's got to stop.
Yeah, it has to. And they take a third of it and give us a little hope, a little bit of hope to do it, but, I mean, we'll never get ahead, never get anywhere ahead of anything if you start, if every time you open the door, it's $1 million, that the state is saying, well, we need that back for our programs. And by the way, county, you won't have enough people in your county that won't pay taxes well enough just to go get it. That's their attitude to us. You know that, Mr. Beal.
And we don't.
Oh, yeah, that's the first thing they told. There's a new coalition in Raleigh, a caucus of county commissioners from the legislature from both parties. And we met with them and the freshman said the first thing they met, said they reminded, said you're no longer a county commissioner, you're now a legislator. That means, what does that mean, the county needs to raise taxes, is what that means, right there?
Yeah, they used to say, and probably some, and there's not many old ones there now, they're mostly new folks. Ronnie can tell you what the numbers are, but they used to say, when we were wanting funds for the county, for whatever it might be, education or whatever it might be, the question we always got hit with, well, what's your tax rate now? And we say 20, 30, 40 cents, what it is, you know. Well, the maximum tax rate that you can charge before going to general assembly is $1.50. You come to see me after you hit $1.50. We won't have to.
Did you imagine?
After it's $1.50, because we won't be here.
Yeah, that's true, that's true.
Mr. Breedlove, anything else?
We're done,
Need to discuss?
Thank y'all so
County
much.
Commissioners, we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion passes. Adjourn. We got to do something.
Everybody understands that
Second, all in favor?
this is open
That's like
discussion.
supposed to be though. They have to approve the budget on March 18th.
Thank you, Andy.
Let's say, Jimmy,
To the county.